So this topic is basically maintenance and rehabilitation of bituminous payments. So why I'm talking about bituminous payment instead of just saying payments, I'll just come to that. So if you see the total network of roads in India as of 31st March 2020, it is around uh, 62 lakhs 15,797 kilometers as recorded or as published by Minister of Road Transport and Highways. And if you see, more than 90% of these roads are bituminous payments. Okay, so that's why I focused mostly the maintenance of bituminous payments. Of course, the mechanism remains the same. However, the maintenance techniques, some of the techniques are different for the rigid payments or concrete payments. So if you see, the national highways are just comprising just more than 2%, whereas if you see the other roads or the rural roads, they are comprising more than 70% of the total road network in the country. Okay, so when we are talking about maintenance of the roads, it covers basically the high volume roads as well as low volume roads. If you see the growth of road network in India, it's an exponential growth. Okay, so starting from 1950 to 2020-21, if you have actually, I have actually just taken out the data from MRTH and just plotted it, and the graph is fitting as an exponential growth. And with this growth, now there is a huge challenge for the agencies to maintain these roads. Okay, so maintenance is also equally important. Let us see why it is important. So as we see, the pace of highways construction in India has touched a record high of 37 kilometers per day in the financial year 2020-21. Okay, so this is a big number, and specifically for this developing country. And longevity of these roads is closely linked to the timely maintenance and rehabilitation of the payments. That's why the maintenance is an important aspect as far as this development of infrastructure is concerned. Main concern of the road users is normally to travel safely at reasonable comfort level at any time of the year. That means it should be usable in every time of the year, be it rainy season or summer season or winter season. So, and at a reasonable comfort level, okay, and safely without any problem in travel. So that's why the normally road users assess the quality of infrastructure based on its condition of the road surface. So maintenance is equally important as that of developing the infrastructure. So we have been developing at a very faster rate. So the maintenance should also be now equally touch that kind of pace. Okay. If you see this particular road, this is actually is a road having overdue of maintenance. So long time it has not been maintained. Okay, so this has already been actually damaged, and it has made itself very poor riding comfort standard. So all roads require maintenance as they are subjected to traffic and the forces of weather. Even if with the highest possible quality of construction, let us say it is with national highways or expressways construction, maintenance is essential to get optimum service from the road structure during its design life. So be it rural road or be it an expressway, maintenance is inevitable for all the type of roads. Okay. So why payment maintenance is required? Because of the deterioration of the payments over a period of time. Why the payment deteriorates? So let us see what are the different reasons for payment deterioration. And one of the major reason, of course, is the action of traffic. That means the heavy movement of the heavy commercial vehicles, as well as the overloading that comes to that is experienced by a majority of the roads, is one of the main reason of the faster payment deterioration. Apart from that, we have environmental factors such as your ingress of water, oxidation of the binder, and loss of volatiles during heating of the binder and all. So this all creates problem for faster deterioration of the road payments. Also, inadequacies in the initial design, specifications, and construction standard. So if the road has not been constructed considering the type of traffic and the subgrade condition, of course, this may prematurely fail. Okay, and as well as the construction standards that are so poor construction practice, poor specification, as well as poor initial design, all will lead to premature failure of the payments, which will cause maintenance before it actually serves it as design life period. Lack of adequate support from the payment layer. So sometimes even if you have put sufficient layer thickness, but if you have weak layers at the bottom, that is your subgrade, then also the payments are likely to fail prematurely and look for maintenance at a very early stage. The rate of deterioration, if you see, this is a standard graph you must be seeing at many presentations. This is basically a payment deterioration graph. Okay, so if you see this goes like this, when it is new, actually, it will have actually a very good riding comfort, and slowly this will actually go down and it will reach somewhat like fair condition, where if you do not maintain, and the maintenance cost will also be cheaper, but if you do not maintain, then within very small span of time, it will actually deteriorate faster, and then the cost of rehabilitation will be 4 to 5 times more than that. Okay, so that's why timely intervention is very much necessary. You need to understand that where you have to take up a maintenance activity and what kind of maintenance activity, so that you can save your money. Okay, and also you can maintain the riding comfort at a desired level. So that's why there is a good proverb that you must have must be knowing, that is your stitch in time saves 9. That means you should understand that you have to stitch the payment in time. Okay, that will save a lot of money as well as a lot of lives. The rate of deterioration basically is dependent on the quality of initial construction, pavement and surface materials, drainage conditions, level of traffic, and the weather conditions. All will affect the rate of deterioration of the payments. So that's why this is not a standard graph. Of course, this will be dependent on all these factors. Okay. What are the benefits of well-planned maintenance? So if you see different benefits, so of course there is improvement in riding quality, there is a preservation of the payment, increased life, and then operational cost will be reduced because of smooth riding surface, and then of course you will get safety because of all this good quality riding surface. Okay. Nowadays you must be seeing that many due to potholes in some roads, there have been accidents, and due to that there is loss of lives and all these things. So as a payment engineer, we need to take that onus on us, that the payment should not fail before time, as well as it should be maintained at a desired serviceability level to avoid any kind of safety issues. So what are the benefits? If you say, it reduces the rate of deterioration, thereby safeguarding previous investments in construction and rehabilitation, because you are investing lakhs and crores of rupees in construction of the roads. If you see nowadays, the construction of rural road is costing you around not less than 50 lakhs per kilometer, and it is almost going as high as in some of the states more than 1 crore per kilometer. And if you go to state highway, national highways, it is in few crores per kilometers. So you can understand the level of investment that is being made in development of these infrastructure. But if you do not maintain them properly and timely, then of course you are going to lose a lot of taxpayers' money in that. So that's why we need to understand that very carefully and very judiciously, and accordingly act towards that. So maintenance also lowers the cost of operating vehicles, because if you have a lot of undulations, a lot of potholes, and other distresses in the payment, it will actually increase the cost of operation of the vehicles on that particular payment. as you know, there is a wear and tear of the vehicles, fuel cost, and all these things, and the machineries, and also a lot of operating costs are considered in this. Also, maintenance will improve the safety of the road users. Okay, as we have discussed a while back. Then it also improves the reliability of the road, allowing it to remain open for traffic on a continuous basis. So it improves the reliability of the road so that it can be remain open for traffic over the all time of that particular year. So it also sustains social and economical benefits of improved road access. So how the social and economical benefit you can see here. If you see this green line, actually in the beginning, this will actually start giving you socio-economic benefits with because once you develop some road infrastructure due to good communication, you will actually there will be benefits in socio-economic area, and slowly if you do not maintain it, then it will follow the red line, and slowly the benefits will reduce. But if you maintain it, then it will go on increasing. Okay, so that's how you can understand how maintenance is an important aspect in socio-economic benefits of a particular area. There is also a need to understand the difference between maintenance and repair. Okay, there is a clear distinction between this maintenance and repair. Effective maintenance basically is clearly time linked and is carried out before major maintenance damages are taken up. Okay, so this involves basically activities relating to supervision and monitoring of the road assets, even while they are still in good condition. So regular payment evaluation is essential for timely maintenance. Okay, so sometimes you have to go for prediction, like you have to plot a payment deterioration graph, and based on that you will predict that next year how the payment condition will be, and accordingly you have to take a preventive action this year so that the payment will not fail next year, and it goes on serving the traffic for a longer period of time without asking for major rehabilitation. Okay, whereas the repairs are basically taken off when major damages takes place or the road access is cut off. Okay, it is basically a responsive measure. Okay, based on the damages, the repairs are taken up. Okay, whereas maintenance is a basically predictive measure. Depending upon the prediction of deterioration, we take preventive action, or we sometimes you take also corrective actions, small corrective actions. So timely and regular maintenance requires securing sufficient funding before it becomes an urgent. Road payment performance is determined based on the requirements of basically the functional and structural condition. So that's why payment, the first step for payment maintenance is the payment evaluation. Okay, and I hope you have already gone through in a detailed manner through different payment evaluation methods and all these things. I'll actually touch upon some of the things which are very much linked to the payment maintenance and rehabilitation methods. Okay, the functional requirements, of course, relate to roughness of the road surface, pavement surface distresses, while along with the skid resistance, other things, while the structural requirements relate to the pavement strength or basically the load carrying capacity of the pavements. So broadly, this pavement evaluation can be categorized into two parts, that is your structural evaluation and functional evaluation. So structural evaluation we normally conduct, we have been conducting basically using a Benkelman beam, which basically is a static method, and now it has become obsolete also in most of the parts of the world as well as in India, but still with non-availability of state-of-the-art equipment like your falling wave deflectometer, which applies a dynamic loading or kind of impulse loading that is very much similar to the actual traffic loading. The maintenance measures are still dependent on the Benkelman beam reflexing circuit. But however, in many agencies have now procured this falling wave deflectometer in India, and the maintenance and rehabilitation actions are being based on the falling wave deflectometer surveys. Okay. So this is falling wave deflector. I hope you have already gone through the literature of falling wave deflectometer in your previous presentations. So if we just see how falling wave deflectometer works, this is basically a non-destructive deflection testing device that delivers an impact load to the pavement surface. And here the load is dropped from a certain height, and the deflections are measured by the sensors, which are known as geophones, and which are placed radially in one direction from the center of the load plate. And based on these deflections and the load and all, we actually tries to back calculate the in situ pavement layer moduli. And based on these in situ pavement moduli properties, we try to understand what is the existing strength of the pavement and how much overlay is required to carry the future traffic for which the pavement is being designed. Okay, so many a times we go for strengthening of the existing pavement so that they, like for 2-lane to 4-lane, there is an expansion of the pavements. So then in that case, we go for widening and strengthening. In those cases, we need to understand like what is the in situ strength, and for the future traffic for next 10 years, then what should be the overlay thickness. Okay, that is mostly based on this deflection parameters. Okay. So the functional evaluations, again, we normally evaluate in terms of skid resistance, roughness, as well as the different pavement surface distress mapping. Okay, so surface distress mapping is mostly done using visual methods, but nowadays there are many automated methods which are used for different distress mapping. Okay, skid resistance is normally measured by the simple device that is called British pendulum skid resistance tester, which is used to measure the skid number of the surface, and based on which we say whether the surface is skid resistant or not. Okay, so and for roughness measurement, of course, there are many devices, but one which is mostly recommended for in India or the IRC guidelines is the fifth wheel bump integrator. Of course, there are other many devices like your Berlin or your other roughometers like your ARRB roughometer or any other like smartphone based roughness devices. And many other devices have come up to the come into the market. So now people are using these devices. Some are profilometric and some are response type roughness devices. So I'm not discussing detail of that because these have been already discussed, and I am presuming that you have the knowledge of that. Okay. So, but here we need to understand different types of distresses, their causes, likely causes, and the treatment methods, so that the maintenance can be taken up accordingly. So, if you see the distresses in bituminous pavements, this can be broadly categorized into 4 types. Okay, as per IRC SP 82, IRC 82. Not SP 82, IRC 82. So first is basically your surface defects, like which will include the fatty surface, or you can say bleeding surfaces, smooth surfaces, streaking or hungry surfaces, like that. Like you have also cracks, like there are different types of cracks, like hairline cracks, alligator cracks, longitudinal cracks, ace cracks, shrinkage cracks, and reflection cracks. Similarly, you have deformations in terms of rutting, corrugations, shoving, maybe sometimes slippage, shallow depression, settlements and upheavals, etc. And there can be disintegrations like your loss of aggregates, stripping or raveling, then your potholes and edge breaking, etc. Let us see one by one through pictorial presentations also what these distresses are and what are the likely causes of these distresses and how these can be treated. Okay, so this one is actually surface which is bleeding. Okay, so you can see here clearly the shining surface is some of the places where that means the bitumen has come out to the surface, and the surface having basically a thin film of excess or free bituminous binder on it. Okay, which creates basically a shiny glass-like reflecting surface from which you can easily say that it's a bleeding. The bleeding has happened on the road surface. What are the likely causes? it is normally caused by one or the combination of the following factors, like your excess binder in the hot mix. If you have excess binder in the hot mix, that will result in bleeding. Lower voids in the mix, use of softer grade binder, too heavy tack coat or prime coat if applied below that, that will also come out as bleeding. Okay, so I think you have already gone through different types of mix design. So hot mix as well as warm mix design. So you understand the optimum binder concept of optimum binder content, concept of optimum air voids. Okay, so if you have lower air voids, if you have higher air voids, what are the issues? Of course, if you have lower air voids under the densification of traffic movement, then you will actually the binder will come out, which we term as bleeding. Okay, and also if you have softer grade bitumen, where this bitumen binder will have lower softening point, then in that case also when the pavement temperature becomes high, the bitumen will become soft and the bleeding will occur. Okay, so all these things are causes of your bleeding. So for that, what is the treatment? The treatment is that the affected portion shall be milled out and repaired with mix of desired quality. Okay, then comes your smooth surface. Basically, smooth surface has a low skid resistance and becomes very slippery when it is wet. Why it happens? It happens mostly because of the polishing of the aggregates under traffic and also due to excessive binder. Okay, so you must be knowing that the stone polishing value and all the things. So whatever aggregates you are using for road surfaces, that should have lower stone polishing values, so that you need to understand. So okay, so what is the treatment for this? Resurfacing with a surface dressing or a premix carpet or microsurfacing, depending upon the type of existing surface, is normally recommended for such kind of distresses. A slurry seal can also be used to impart anti-skid texture onto the smooth surface. Okay, so we'll discuss all these things. What is slurry seal, what is premix carpet, microsurfacing, surface dressing, all these things in separate slides. Okay, subsequent slides. So we also have surface in terms of your hungry surface, bitumen hungry surface. You can see the bitumen, the aggregate is lying like this. Actually, it's actually looking at whiter surface. So that's why you can say that this is a bitumen hungry surface. Hungry surface is basically characterized by the loss of fine aggregates from the surface or the appearance of dry surface with fine cracks. Okay. The causes are basically low bitumen content in the surfacing layer and use of absorptive aggregates in the surfacing layer, which has absorbed some percent of bitumen. That's why the effective bitumen has become less, and you can find the bitumen hungry surfaces. So treatment is basically you can go with a fog seal or liquid rejuvenating material. Okay, or you can also go with slurry seal or microsurfacing. Okay, so these treatment methods we will discuss in separate slide. Okay, which will come later. Cracking in bituminous pavements, we see different types of cracking, like a block cracking, or you can say fatigue cracking. Sometimes we say alligator cracking, edge cracking, or then longitudinal cracking, which may be wheel froth or non-wheel froth cracking, reflection cracking, and transverse cracking. These are actually, you can say, block cracking or fatigue cracks. Okay, these are actually series of interconnected cracks having small irregular blocks in pavement surface, which are normally observed along the wheel path. Okay, and this looks like the surface of an alligator. That's why these are also called as alligator cracking. And the causes are basically excessive deflection of the pavement surface, inadequate pavement thickness, as well as inadequate your surfacing layer, and weakening of the subgrade or the lower layers that results in higher deflection or higher bending of these bound layers, overloading of heavy commercial vehicles, and then brittleness of the binder due to aging of the binder or oxidation of the binder that makes the bitumen brittle, and that causes the binder, the asphalt to break. So treatment of this is basically the repair is decided based on the severity and extent of the cracking as well as the cause of the distress. Since this fatigue cracking is a structural cracking, so that's why you need to investigate the reason of such fatigue cracks, whether it has initiated from the lower layers or it has been initiated from the upper layers. Accordingly, the treatment method will be taken. Longitudinal cracks, you can see cracks in the longitudinal direction, which are normally parallel to the center line of the road. Okay, causes basically alternate wetting and drying beneath the shoulder surface, improper or weak joints basically between the adjoining layers, so that will also create longitudinal cracks. Normally, actually, if you have expansion or moisture movement in the subgrade, that will create your longitudinal cracks in the pavements. Okay. Treatment basically is crack sealing, preferably using rubberized bitumen, or you can also go, if it is severe, then you should go with a remove and replace the cracked pavement layer with a fresh overlay. Okay. Similarly, we can have transverse cracks. These cracks appear in the transverse direction, which is just perpendicular to the traffic movement direction. And this causes basically again alternate wetting and drying beneath the shoulder surface. Okay, and improper or weak joints between the adjoining layers, that will also cause these transverse cracks. So treatment is basically crack sealing, preferably using rubberized bitumen, or the same way like remove or replace the cracked pavement layer with fresh overlay. Reflection cracks, okay, these are actually reflection of the cracks from the bottom layers. Okay, normally this happens when you go for of putting the surfacing over an hydraulically bound material, whether it is a stabilized layer or a cement concrete layer, then these reflection cracks are normally occur. Symptoms are basically these are basically sympathetic cracks that appear in the bituminous surfacing over the joints and underneath the cracked pavement. So the major cause is basically differential movement across the underlying cracks or joint. So due to stress concentration at the cracks, which actually forms in the bottom layers, will actually cause the surface to crack, which are known as reflection crack. Okay, so the treatment is basically either you go for individual cracks to seal, and then if it is wider cracks, then you have to go for a slurry seal, and if the fine cracks are there, then you have to go with a fog seal, or else you have to go for some SAMI layer, that is your stress absorbing membrane interlayer. I hope this you must have already, this must have been covered in your pavement design part, specifically for pavement, flexible pavement with cement stabilized bases, where we recommend a stress absorbing membrane interlayer SAMI layer, so that the reflection crack do not occur in the surface. Okay. So for control of reflection cracking, so either you go with a SAMI layer, or normally we can go with a provision application of a geogrid. Okay, over the existing layer or existing pavement. Okay, which is likely to crack or which is already cracked. Okay, so this is how you are putting this glass geogrids here, and then over that you put your surfacing layer. Then your reflection cracks can be minimized to a large extent. The next one is, of course, the deformation, where there are different types of deformation that we see in a pavement in terms of slippage, in terms of rutting, in terms of corrugation, in terms of shoving, in terms of shallow depressions, and in terms of settlement and upheaval. Okay, let us understand one by one their causes and then their remedies. This is nothing but slippage. We can easily see actually here the surface has slipped. Okay. Slippage is basically the relative movement between the wearing course and the layer beneath the wearing course. Okay, so if there is improper bond between the wearing course and its bottom layer, then there are chances that the layer may slip under the dynamic action of the property. Okay, so what are the causes? Inadequacy of the tag coat. Normally tag coat is applied to act as a binding layer between the bottom layer, that normally is the binder force of the DBM layer over which you are putting the surfacing layer. So the tag coat is inadequate or lack of bond between the wearing coat and its lower layer, whatever may be the case. Then presence of fine dust, moisture, or both between these two layers. So if you have actually dust or moisture existing between these two layers, that will also create lack of bond between and which is one of the major cause of slippage. So what is the treatment? Treatment is that you have to remove the surface layer around the affected area, and then you have to go for patching the area with a premix material after applying a tag coat. So it is actually removal of this area, removal of the material from this area, and then replace with fresh premix material. Then rutting, which is very common, is basically the longitudinal depression that you see in the pavement along the wheel path. So along the wheel path with actually repeated application of the load, there is a permanent deformation. I hope all of you understand the concept of repetition of the loads, and with each repetition of load there is some recoverable deformation and some irrecoverable or plastic deformation. So that though that plastic deformation is really very small, but over a period of time with a large number of repetitions, that small plastic deformation accumulates and become a large deformation, permanent deformation, which is known as rutting. So this is one of the major design criteria in the flexible pavement, as you know. So the causes is causes of rutting are basically heavy channelized traffic and overloading of the vehicles, inadequate compaction of the layers, improper mixed design of the surfacing layer, intrusion of moisture into the pavement, and weak pavement due to poor subgrade quality. So all these are actually individually may cause rutting, or it may be a combined action of all these causes that results in rutting in the pavement surface. Okay. Treatment depends on the actual cause of rutting. So depending upon the cause, you have to take a call of the type of treatment you should do. And if just it is surface rutting, then you should fill it with a premix material. Next deformation is corrugation. Corrugation, as you can see, this is basically formation of regular undulation or ripples across the bituminous surface. Okay, so easily you can actually visualize the ripples on the pavement surface. These are nothing but along the longitudinal direction. You can see here this is known as your corrugation. Why corrugation happens? Because of lack of stability in the mix. That means the mix stability is low. That's why there is a lot of you can say undulation that has been created under the movement of traffic. Faulty laying of the surface course, insufficient rolling or rolling a tender mix, or braking action of the vehicles when it is actually on a grade or on a down gradient or up gradient, like that. Okay. So treatment for this is basically after scarifying the affected area, a new layer is laid, and of course with a more stable mix. And then cutting of the, or otherwise you can also go with cutting of the high spots with a blade, and then spreading a sand bituminous premix on that surface, thereby leveling the pavement surface and then making it smooth right surface. Then comes your shoving. Okay, shoving is basically a form of plastic movement within the bituminous layer, resulting in bulging of the pavement surface. As you can see here, when there is a rutting along the wheel path, the nearby surface will be actually shoving. So shoving is always associated with the rutting. Okay, so when there is a mixed stability failure, so you can see that the material has come out from this portion and has been deposited on the nearby area, which is nothing but your soaping. So this is basically due to, again, lack of stability in the mix, lack of bond between the bituminous surface and the underlying layer, and as well as due to heavy traffic movement. Okay. So treatment for such kind of distresses may be removal of the material in the affected area down to the farm base and then laying a stable premix patch over that. Okay. So depending upon the actually reason of sowing or rutting and sowing, then a corrective action will be taken. Then comes your shallow depression. Okay, shallow depressions are basically isolated, low, limited size dips of about 25 millimeter or more. Okay, depth of depression may be 25 millimeter or more. Okay, below the existing profile of the road, which are normally known as the shallow depressions. Okay. And you can observe the shallow depression in form of like when there is bonding of water on the road surface in patches, then you can see that yes, these are the shallow depression. Mostly the failure is very much local rather than any other reason. Okay, so isolated settlement of lower pavement layers due to pockets of inadequately compacted subgrade or other layers of the pavement will result in shallow depressions. Okay, treatment is of course is a filling of this depression with premix materials, or basically patching this thing. Then comes settlement and upheaval. Okay, what is settlement? You can see the shallow depression is in a very small area, whereas if it is continuous for longer distances, then we call that like settlement. Okay, so these are characterized by relatively large deformations of the pavement compared to the shallow depressions. Okay, so causes are basically inadequate compaction of the surfacing mix as well as the other layers, inadequate or you can say excessive moisture in the subgrade, and inadequate pavement thickness, which results in such kind of large settlements along the wheel paths. So treatment, basically it may be necessary to excavate the defective fill and do the embankment afresh under properly controlled condition, because most of the time these kind of things are linked to the swelling and shrinkage characteristics of the subgrade soil. So you need to if you find out actually it is the reason coming out from the subgrade level or embankment level, then corrective action should be taken at that location. Else, if it is related to the mixes, then the mix redesigned stable mix should be laid well compacted to reduce the settlement and upheaval of these pavement layers. So also you need to improve the drainage characteristics of the pavement at this location if needed. Lastly, the fourth category of the disintegration is basically the disintegration. Disintegration is in form of stripping, raveling, potholes, and case breaking. What is stripping? These are the categories actually I have taken from IRCS 82. So the categories can be different from person to person. So we can actually can categorize depending upon our understanding also. Okay. So disintegration is basically stripping. Stripping is nothing but loss of bond between the aggregates and the binder, which is known as stripping. It's characterized by the separation of bitumen film from the surfaces of the aggregates due to presence of moisture. So there is a constant contact of moisture to the bitumen surface, then the stripping is likely to occur. So major causes are use of hydrophilic aggregate. Hydrophilic means water loving aggregates, inadequate mix composition. So if you do not have proper binder content also, so that will result in stripping, continuous contact with water, then presence of dust or moisture on the aggregate surface, which will cause delamination of a binder from the aggregate surface and will cause stripping. Treatment is basically application of a liquid seal coat, but however, if it is severe, then existing bituminous mix should be replaced with a fresh mix. Then comes your raveling. Normally, raveling is basically a progressive separation and dissociation of fine aggregate particles and binders from the bituminous surface. So the next stage of stripping is, of course, the raveling. When the stripping starts occurring, you can see the aggregates has become loose and lying on the surface, and these aggregates are prone to lost with the movement of the traffic, okay, or under the action of traffic. So this is nothing but the raveling, one of the major distress that we see in poor drainage condition areas. Okay, so the causes are basically inadequate bitumen content in a mix, overheating of bitumen during the mixing process, and then of course construction during cold and wet weather. Okay, so if you do not maintain the temperature during mixing and compaction, of course it will cause stripping of the binder and also cause the raveling of the payment surface. Okay, treatment, application of a liquid seal coat in case of low severity, but in case of high severity, raveling may be corrected by a single or multiple application of liquid seal coat, slurry seal, microsurfacing, and surfacing of thin overlay. Okay, you just note down all these maintenance measures. We will be discussing these maintenance measures subsequently after a few slides. Okay. Then this is very common to all, and in our day-to-day life, we see these potholes. Of course, the pothole is the last type of failure that we see. It normally starts from a crack, and then when there is a crack, there is ingress of water into the surfacing layer. When there is ingress of water into the surfacing layer, you will actually see more cracks in that area, and then there will be stripping, there will be disintegration, there will be raveling, loss of aggregates, and there is formation of potholes. So it is actually starts from the cracks. So in the beginning itself, if you can seal the cracks in time, then these potholes will never form. However, there are other reasons of formation of potholes also. We'll see actually the other reasons of potholes. You can see like your loss of adhesion in bituminous wearing coat, rutting, and depressions also on the surface are another causes of your potholes, formation of potholes. So the treatment that we normally do, the patching with hot or cold bituminous mixes, okay, and effectively should patch so that it lasts longer. So pothole repair again has to be done in a correct way. This includes basically cutting back the pothole, reaching a sound road base. Okay, so you have to actually reach up to the layer where you will find a stable base. So you can see the pothole area is this one. Okay, this curved line you can see. Okay, so you cut it out like a rectangular area like this, and then fill it with a patch mix. It can be a cold patch mix or a hot patch mix, and then you keep it at least 1 centimeter above that, so that the compaction under the traffic will also happen, and slowly it reaches to the level of the existing road surface. Okay, so that's how the patching should be done to correct the potholes. Lastly, the edge breaking. Okay, you can see here clearly how the edges have broken due to various reasons. One of the major reasons basically the worn out shoulders. Okay, inadequate strength at the edge. Okay, and then infiltration of water. Most of the time, actually, due to poor subgrade condition, or sometimes due to overhang of the surfacing layer on the onto the surfacing onto the shoulder, this starts breaking. So you have to maintain the shoulders to avoid such kind of edge breaking. So pavement materials in the affected area should be carefully removed to a regular section with vertical sides. Okay. So apart from these visual distress surveys and all these things, we also use this automatic payment distress mapping. I hope all of you by this time knows what is the automatic payment distress measurement method. Okay, so you can see here this is a automatic road analyzer, and there are all other vehicles like your network survey vehicles, okay, which are actually equipped with different types of sensors and computers that can automatically collect the distress data from the payment. Okay, this RN basically is configured to measure the longitudinal profile of the road, which is in terms of roughness, or transverse profile, that means rut depth and other things, surface macro texture, crossfall, that is your camber and other things, gradient and radius of curvature, all can be measured through this. And then forward view video using broadcast quality video camera. So once you collect these videos and that will be processed using some different programs which are actually based on artificial intelligence and machine learning tools that can actually segregate or find out the different type of distresses and then map them and then find out their percentage annual based on which the maintenance can be taken up. So then after knowing all these payments, you have to go for payment condition rating. Okay. So as per this IRC 82, you have to rate the payments. Okay. So for that you have to see the cracking area, the raveling area, pothole area, sowing area, patching area, settlement, all these things. After identifying these things, you have to quantify them based on the data, whether you have visually collected or you have collected through some automated source. Okay, nowadays people are also using drones to collect this distress data and then find out and then quantify them. Okay, so this is how actually you get the different types of distresses. Okay, range of distresses. Okay, and you give a rating 1.1 to 2 to like this. We give a rating. Okay, and based on the condition whether it is poor, fair or good. Similarly, this basically is for highways. We normally follow this, but for MDRs and rural roads, we follow this kind of rating system. Okay, if you see again, this is actually slightly on a higher side because these are less important roads and we can allow slightly higher values of this thing because the acceptability on rural roads is higher. Okay. For urban roads also, there are rating systems as given in IRC 82. You can follow this rating system here. Okay. For cracking, raveling, potholes, settlement, rut depth. Okay. Then we also have serviceability indicators for highways, which will actually give you an indication that when you should take up the maintenance job. Okay. So what are the serviceability indicators? The two major serviceability indicators are roughness and skid resistance. Okay. For highways, this roughness for level 1 kind of service or maybe level 2 or level 3 based on whether it is good, fair or poor surface, you can actually take it like the indicator is 1800 millimeter per kilometer or 1.8 IRI or 2.4 IRI or 3.2 IRI. Okay, that will actually trigger basically the maintenance needs. Skid resistance, again, in the British pendulum skid resistance tester, we will get a skid number. So of course we need higher skid number. So these are the skid numbers 60, 50 or 40 for different types of road surfaces. Okay. Recommended one is of course 50 to 55 is always recommended for most of the highways. And for urban roads, again, the serviceability indicators has been given in IRC 82 in terms of your roughness and your skid resistance in terms of your BPN, British pendulum skid number. Okay. So we also find out the another terminology or rating system, that is your payment condition index. So a methodology is given to find out the payment condition index in a scale of on a scale of 0 to 100. Okay, that gives you again the present condition of the payment surface. Okay, so based on the different type of distresses and all, this PCI is evaluated: distress type, distress quantity, as well as distress severity. The PCI value is determined on a scale of 0 to 100, where 100 is the excellent writing condition, okay, and 0 is the fail condition. Okay, so now we'll go to the different types of maintenance. Maybe we can take a short break of 2 minutes. Mr. Sandeep, can we go for just a short break?
Yes, sir. Sure, sir. Sure, sir.
Definitely.
So we'll have a break of 5 minutes, then we'll come back.
Okay, sir.
Sure, sir.
Okay, thank you. Welcome back. So I hope all are there. So next is basically the different types of maintenance. Okay, so the different type of maintenance, if you see based on the timing and the frequency and the scale of activities that you do, we can actually divide the maintenance into different types, like your routine maintenance, your periodic maintenance, and special repair maintenance. But of course, I have added one more maintenance, which is known as your preventive maintenance, okay, which is very, very much important, and that can be clubbed with basically with your periodic maintenance. But it has been now distinguished in many guidelines, preventive maintenance as one of the type of maintenance. Okay. Then maintenance, when actually the deterioration has gone down the phase of maintenance, then we go for rehabilitation, strengthening and rehabilitation. Or sometimes when you need to add a thicker layer on the existing surface, then we go for strengthening and rehabilitation measure. For that, normally what we do is that we put a thick structural overlay to cater for the traffic, future traffic. Otherwise, also the another option which is now coming up and which is being practiced in majority of the countries across the world, as well as it has now started in India, is the payment recycling. Okay, so we'll see how recycling can be a viable option for strengthening and rehabilitation measures. And then, of course, if all this fails, sometimes when the failure starts from the root cause of the failure is the subgrade, then we go for the reconstruction measures. Okay. So routine maintenance, if you see, actually routine maintenance, these are activities on a small scale. Okay. So as and when you see some distresses on the road, immediately that has to be patched or sealed like that. So these are called routine maintenance. Okay. So these are widely dispersed and often performed using manual labor. Okay. And this covers items such as your filling of potholes, repairing of cracks and patchwork, which are undertaken by the maintenance staff almost round the year. Okay. Then your preventive maintenance. Preventive maintenance basically is a planned maintenance activity which decreases the surface deterioration. Okay, so you predict the kind of deterioration that may happen, and based on that prediction, or sometimes based on certain taking of some corrective measure, also we go for this preventive maintenance. Okay, so always preventive is not corrective. The preventive is actually based on predictive things. Okay, so this is a planned maintenance activity which decreases the rate of surface deterioration. Okay, this improves or extends the functional life of the pavement surface while it is in good condition, and making it a cost-effective treatment. Okay, so when the pavement is itself is a good condition, good riding comfort, but it is expected that if you do not take up a maintenance measure today, then after a year this the pavement deterioration will be faster. Okay, so periodic maintenance, basically, periodic maintenance is a measure overall of a road, typically which is carried out after a period of 5 years or 10 years, depending on the traffic levels, payment type, and geographical and weather condition. Normally, let us say like your rural roads or PNGSA roads, after up to 5 years, they maintain the roads in terms of patching, pothole repair, and this crack sealing and all these things. But after 5 years, what they do, they go for a renewal quote on that, which is nothing but a periodic maintenance. After 4 or 5 years, after 10 years, normally we go for a overlaying. It may be very thin overlay also. So that is known as your periodic maintenance. Okay. So the most common periodic maintenance activities include the renewal of the road surface and major repairs of the structures. Periodic maintenance, basically the general practice in the country is basically to finalize the renewal program on an annual basis. Okay, which are the roads to be taken this year for renewal code and all these things. And this renewal program for each section of a road should be decided well in advance. Okay, like depending upon the condition rating, as we have seen from our earlier slides, that depending upon different type of distresses, you can go for the condition rating, and based on the condition rating for different type of road category and the roughness levels, these are the suggested treatments, okay, for periodic maintenance, which is normally followed in India as per the IRC 82 guidelines. Okay. Normally, if you see any thickness less than 40 millimeter is not considered as a structural overlay. Okay, so that's why all these layers you can see 30 to 40 millimeter or maximum 20-25 millimeter. All these things, these are all called thin overlays. Okay, these are not structural overlays. More than 40 mm are known as your structural overlay. Then your special repair and maintenance, special or emergency maintenance responds to basically occasional or unforeseen events such as your landslides, your washouts, or maybe your large trees or debris on the road, and maybe due to broken drainage structures and all, which will cause for emergency repair works. Okay, that will come under the special repair and maintenance activities. So then your strengthening and rehabilitation. And in the strengthening and rehabilitation, of course, we can go with this bituminous pavement alternatives like overlaying, recycling, and reconstruction. In case of strengthening, thin overlays should not be applied. As I have told, less than 40 millimeter are not applied when overlays, structural overlays are provided, because if these are applied on severely cracked pavement without a detailed pavement investigation, a lot of reflection cracks will be there and the pavement again will prematurely fail. In case of recycling process, normally the material from the deteriorated pavement known as reclaimed asphalt pavement, that is called RAP, is partially or fully reused in the phase construction. I hope all of you maybe have some kind of idea about the RAP material and how RAP is used in asphalt pavement recycling. We'll also have some slides on recycling of the pavements. Let us understand the timing of the pavement maintenance. This is a typical pavement deterioration graph. If you see, okay, this is a typical pavement deterioration graph, and here you can see up to this time, up to this point, okay, you can actually go for preventive maintenance. Okay, so but when you have a drop in quality up to 40%, then immediately you should have some minor rehabilitation measures. So these are the windows actually where you should take minor rehabilitation, where you have to go for preventive maintenance, where you have to go for major rehabilitation. You can see the major rehabilitation has to be taken during this period. If you are taking up the maintenance during this phase of the road, okay, this phase of this condition of the road, then you have to go for your major rehabilitation. Okay, but if again it passes that phase also, you have to go for reconstruction. When the payment fails, then there is no other way instead of going for reconstruction. Okay, so these are actually timings for taking of different types of maintenance: preventive maintenance, minor rehabilitation, major rehabilitation, and reconstruction. So you can see here how with maintenance, preventive maintenance, the pavement life can be enhanced. You can see at this point when you are applying a pavement preventive maintenance, this point with a cost which is very low at this point of time, you can see this ordinate here, which will give a benefit of this much in terms of your major strengthening and rehabilitation. Okay, if you do not do the preventive maintenance of this much, at this cost, at this point of time, you have to pay this much of money for rehabilitation at this point of time. Okay, so that's why it's called a stitch in time saves time, and as well as if you can do the preventive maintenance at right time, then you can save a lot of money that can be saved from major rehabilitation of the pavements or even sometimes reconstruction. So that's why preventive maintenance is very, very much important, and this should be practiced a lot. So what are the advantages? Improved level of service resulting from improved payment performance. So since you are actually, when the payment is in good condition itself, you are going for the inventory measure that increases the riding quality with this thin layer of bituminous surfacing, and it also delays the rehabilitation need and also the reconstruction, and it saves life when you go for life cycle cost analysis. Okay, it saves a lot of money. Okay. So how to actually select the type of preventive maintenance? Okay, there are different types of preventive maintenance. How to select a particular thing? So first you have to understand the existing distresses to be treated. What are the different type of distresses? Anticipated distress to be delayed. Okay, what are the distress which are predicted and how much to be delayed? Appropriate treatment for the existing condition. For the existing condition, what is the appropriate type of treatment you need? Timing of the treatment, at what time of the deterioration graph you are taking of the treatment, then maximizing the performance while minimizing the cost. Okay, so there are different types of preventive maintenance. Okay, now we have been discussing about all these things in our previous slides, but let us discuss what they are. Okay, first is your crack sealing or crack filling, fog seal, slurry seal, microsurfacing, chip seal or surface dressing, thin surfacing, ultra thin friction courses. These all are considered as your thin surfacing layers or thin sealing layers and considered as a preventing maintenance measure. Okay, and let us understand one by one. So of course, crack sealing and crack filling, all of you know that we normally use either polymer modified binders or rubber modified binders for sealing of the cracks. Okay, as and when it occurs in the payment, or sometimes as a part of your preventive maintenance program. So let us understand what is fog seal. Okay, fog seal basically, fog seals are very light applications of a diluted bitumen emulsion placed directly on the pavement surface with no aggregate. So it is just application of a liquid seal coat, okay, or liquid bitumen emulsion over the surface, existing surface. And you can see how this is being applied. It's just like sometimes like these are very much helpful when the surface is a bitumen hungry surface. So then you can go with this say fog seal. Sometimes when it is actually there is raveling and all, you can go with a fog seal like this. Okay, so here this can be applied for longitudinal, transverse, and also for block cracking, raveling or weathering, bituminizing, oxidation, etc. They are all, in all these cases you can apply a fog seal on the surface. And of course, as we know, these are not structural overlays, so there is no structural improvement with this. But of course, this can help to reduce the moisture infiltration through the fatigue cracks. Okay, that's why the severity of the structural cracks can be reduced. It's not appropriate for surfaces with poor skid resistance because you are applying a bituminous layer which will actually decrease its skid resistance characteristic. So if already there is like bleeding surface and all these things, never apply these fog seals over that. Okay. So what is this? Basically, we apply a slow setting bitumen emulsion. I hope all of you by now know all different types of emulsion, like your slow setting emulsion, medium setting emulsion, and rapid setting emulsion, which are applied for different types of constructions. Okay. So here in fog seal, normally we apply a slow setting emulsion, which requires a larger time to break. And the pavement is sometimes closed for 2 hours for curing before it is open to traffic. Okay. The next is your slurry seal. This is basically a mixture of well-graded aggregates. Normally it is fine sand and mineral fill, smaller size aggregates. Okay, well-graded fine aggregates and bitumen emulsion that is sprayed over the entire pavement surface. Okay, and very thin layer of less than 10 millimeter. Okay, it is effective in sealing the. You can see here actually how this is being applied. A thin layer of bitumen emulsion plus your fine aggregates is applied on the existing distressed surface. sometimes even good quality surface, okay, to reduce the further deterioration. Okay, it is effective in sealing low severity surface cracks, waterproofing the pavement surface, and improving the skid resistance at low speeds, specifically below 60 km/h. Okay, as we all know, adds no structural capacity, however, can temporarily seal the cracks. Thickness is generally less than 10 millimeters, and pavement is often closed for several hours to allow the emulsion to cure. Okay. Then comes microsurfacing. Microsurfacing is a relatively advanced technique. This consists of a mixture of polymer modified emulsified asphalt, mineral aggregate, mineral filler, water, and additives applied in a process similar to slurry seal. Application is same like slurry seal, but here the mixture composition is different than slurry seals. Here you use polymer modified bitumen emulsion, then your mineral aggregate or small fine aggregates, mineral filler, okay, and then water, and as well as additives. Additives is other chemical agents which we add, okay. So these are used primarily to inhibit raveling and oxidation of the pavement surface. If you observe raveling and oxidation due to aging of the pavement surface, then you should go with this microsurfacing. Normally, this is actually thickness. This is applied in a thickness of 6 to 8 millimeters, and these are applied when there is no major irregularities in the pavement surface. It can actually fill the irregularities and rut depth up to a thickness of 40 millimeters. And this is effective in all climatic conditions. This is very effective technique for maintaining the pavements. Okay, when the pavement is in good condition, good structural condition. Only to improve the functional qualities, we go for these preventive maintenance methods. So this is how you are going with this microsurfacing. So the major difference between the slurry seal and microsurfacing is that how it breaks or how it hardens. Slurry seal basically relies on the evaporation of the water in the asphalt emulsion by the action of sun, okay, or the action of natural heat. Whereas emulsion used in microsurfacing contains chemical additives or breaking agents rather, which allows it to break without relying on the sun or heat for evaporation to occur. Okay, so this can do its own. It can happen in. It can happen actually on its own by use of this different chemical additives which are used for accelerated breaking of the emulsion. So advantages are basically there is a marginal rise in the pavement height, then less environmental pollution because there is no heating of the bitumen and all, increased skid resistance, faster laying process, and high durability due to rubber additives. So because we go with modified emulsion, so whether polymer modified or rubber modified, we get higher durability. The next one is a chip seal or your surface dressing. Okay, so all of us understand what is basically a surface dressing. Okay, this is basically bitumen emulsion or hot bitumen is normally applied directly to the pavement surface, followed by application of the aggregate chips and then immediately rolled to embed the chips. So if you see here, this is how we first lay a layer of bitumen emulsion or hot bitumen, and then over that we spread the chips so that the bitumen remain intact over there, or to avoid the loss of bitumen from the surface. Okay, the chips are put on that. Okay, and then slowly this is rolled, and then the chips are allowed to penetrate into the bitumen, and then this chip seal or surface dressing can be constructed as single coat chip seal or double coat chip seal. Okay, and again this adds no structural capacity similar to others and improves surface friction, also effective at sealing some of the fatigue cracks, and can be applied as one coat or two coats as I said, and with proper design and construction, chip seals can perform well even on high volume roads. Normally, these are recommended for low volume roads, but these can also be used for high volume roads. Okay. So this is how the chip sealing is done. Okay. This is very common in US and many other developed countries. Their major preventive maintenance is this chip sealing technique or microsurfacing technique. Then comes thin hot mix or cold mix bituminous overlays. Okay. Normally plant mix combination of asphalt, cement and aggregate applied to the pavement as a thin overlay, and thicknesses normally vary between 15 to 25. Like it can be a premix carpet, open graded premix carpet, or a stone matrix, maybe using smaller size aggregate, or maybe open graded friction force and all this. So thin hot mix or cold mix can be applied as a preventive maintenance measure depending upon the type of you can say distress that you see, and then predicting the type of distress that may occur over a period of time. So then the last one, of course, is the ultra thin friction courses, which are also known as open graded friction course. This is a very relatively new treatment, and this is being followed in many highways where the speeds design speed is very high. Okay. And the water stagnation on the road surface may cause your problems for flying of the vehicles, causing skid resistance related problems. Okay. These ultra thin friction courses are basically gap graded aggregates, and these are you prepared with polymer modified binders and a thickness of 10 to 20 millimeter of thickness, and normally placed over a tack coat. You can see these actually these will have voids of around 20-25% and will allow the water to penetrate through that and immediately drained off, so that the water will not get stagnant on the surface, and when the vehicle moves over that, there is no problem of losing control on the road surface by the vehicle tires. Okay. So these are the different pavement maintenance techniques which we have already discussed and their applications. So if you see, actually this chip seal is can normally be applied for all conditions. Okay, if you see for roughness, improvement in smoothness of the riding surface, friction, noise related issues, pavement life or moisture things. So you can see actually the chip seal or surface dressing is ineffective in all aspects. Okay, so that's why chip seal is one of the popularly applied preventive maintenance measure in most of the countries. Okay, similarly microsurfacing is also like that. Okay. So next is pavement recycling, and this is a relatively new method being applied to pavement rehabilitation very recently. So here, as you know that we need to conserve the natural resources and compensate for the increased cost of asphalt binders. Day by day, actually, we have seen in the first slide how much length of road we have been constructing. So that needs a lot of aggregates, a lot of binder, and also we have seen that the cost of bituminous products has increased during last decade. And that also has increased the cost of bitumen also. So if some way we can reuse the materials in a more potential way through this recycling process, then you can save a lot of materials as well as save a lot of money of the country. So that's also another problem is the geometrics. Okay, like many times in city roads or urban areas, if you go on for overlaying every 5 years or 10 years, you will see that the payment is getting payment level is getting higher than the adjacent shoulders and other geometric features. So that will cause again rising of all these adjacent structures also. So in those cases, it will be wise to go for milling and then again relaying of a recycle mix over that. So here you can see milling of the distressed layer and then relaying with the fresh mix, and then that's how we can maintain the levels. Okay. So there are different methods of payment recycling. If you see, it's hot mix recycling, depending upon whether you use hot process or cold process. Hot mix recycling and cold mix recycling. Again, in hot mix, we have two types called hot plant recycling and hot in place recycling. Then cold plant recycling and cold in place recycling. Hot plant recycling means you have to actually take out the material from the field, mill out the material, and then take out to a batching plant, and there you have to prepare a hot mix by adding some percentage of virgin binder and virgin aggregates, and then again you have to bring that material to the site and then lay and compact like similar to a fresh mix. Okay. Hot in place recycling is actually a chain of vehicles where in situ everything will happen through a hot process. So milling and then preparation of the mixes and your laying of the mix and then compaction all will happen simultaneously at the site itself. That is known as hot in place recycling. The same process, if you do not hit, then we call that as cold plant recycling or cold in place recycling. Let us understand what are these. So recycling of asphalt payments, the advantage if you see less user delay, conservation of energy, preservation of the environment. Okay, conservation of energy, because if you go for cold recycling, that will actually save a lot of energy. And sometimes even if you are going with hot recycling also, there is a term called embedded energy. Embedded energy means the energy which had already been lost in production of the aggregates or binder. Those are known as your embedded energy. So when you reuse these materials, then you also conserve a lot of energy. Okay. So preservation of the environment because of the recycling process, reduced cost of construction because of reuse of the materials, conservation of aggregates and binder, preservation of existing payment geometrics, etc. Okay. So one of the popular method is your mill and fill. So what do in mill and fill? If you see this, let's say due to cracking and other things, these two bituminous layer BC and DBM, bituminous concrete and dense bituminous macadam, has severely cracked. Now you need to the conventional way is that over that we put a thick overlay. Okay, or sometimes we put a geogrid and over that we put a thick overlay. But again, that will increase your level of the road surface. But in the recycling process, what we do, we mill the distressed portion up to this, and then again we make a fresh mix with addition of some more fresh binder and fresh aggregates, and then prepare a mix and then lay and compact and then prepare your layer like this. Okay, so the benefits, if you see, this is a cost-effective and economical process, faster material removal and profile correction, and then saving of aggregates and environment friendly. FRL can be maintained and immediately can be open to traffic. Okay, this is how this milling is being done in situ. Okay, this is how actually this is a milling machine. Okay, so here this is a milling drum. So it is actually having teeth, strong metallic items. So these teeth will actually mill off the rolls. You see, actually it's milling in this direction, working direction, and these are the aggregate. These are the aggregate plus binder or wrap, we call as wrap. This wrap is taken to the plant, batching plant, and then prepare the fresh mix, and then can be relayed and compacted. Okay, but this can also be in situ. We'll see. Okay, this is how actually this milling is being done. Okay, you can see this is a machine from Whitgen, which is milling the road surface and then dumping into a truck or tipper. This is how after the mix is prepared, this is being relayed with a paver. Okay, this is the paving is going on. Now these are some in situ recycling process. You see actually in situ, after taking out the material, again we mix it with some emulsion, This is actually a chain of vehicles where we have emulsion and other things. So this is a cold recycler. Okay, cold recycler. All the recycling process, like starting from milling and all things, then preparing the fresh mix and then laying and compacting, all is done by the miller, and then it is being compacted. Okay, this is done either by using bitumen emulsion, okay, or using foamed bitumen. I hope all of you understand foamed bitumen. So the foaming also done in situ by adding hot bitumen and cold water and preparing the foam in situ, and then foaming bitumen is also prepared and then laid and compacted. So either the cold recycling is done using foamed bitumen mixes, or bitumen emulsion, using bitumen emulsion. Okay, these are the different chain of vehicles which are used in this process. Okay. So recycling, as you know, is one of the important thing in maintenance nowadays. Now, we also need, while talking about maintenance need, we also need to understand the importance of drainage in that. Most of the payment failures are linked to the drainage system, in provision of drainage system in a road. So if you say who is the first enemy of the road, is actually you will find it is the drainage. Second enemy is the drainage. Third enemy is the drainage. So drainage is one of the major cause of damage of the roads. So that's why drainage should be addressed adequately to improve the condition, structural condition of the structural as well as functional condition of the road surface. So good drainage should ensure good surface runoff. Precipitation in the adjacent area should be drained quickly. No seepage, no waterlogging. Okay. So how to ensure all these things? You have to ensure this thing to three types of drainage: surface drainage, subsurface drainage, as well as cross drainage measures. If you see the surface drainage, we provide transverse slopes like your camber to drain up the rainwater. Okay, it removes the water from the pavement surface and facilitates the cross-section elements. Then also longitudinal slopes we provide in terms of gradient. Okay, that will also help to maintain a minimum gradient for the slopes in the longitudinal channel, that is the side slopes and all. You see here, this is the cross slope, this is longitudinal slope. Longitudinal slope again is required. Even if gradient is not required, we provide a minimum gradient so that we can provide a side drain for that water with the same slope. Okay. Then we provide different types of other measures, like in hilly areas we provide catch water drain. Okay, and we provide side drains and other things. And then these side drains are linked with or integrated with the cross drain. This is the cross drain or culverts. Okay, so all this there should be a good system of drainage in the development of the road infrastructure, so that the road deterioration can be minimized to a large extent. So surface drainage, if you see the importance of camber, okay, and then the rutting, how it affects the surface drainage and all these things. Okay, so water if it gets stagnant over here through the rods, slowly starts penetrating and then slowly damages the surface layer as well as the base course layer, and then subsequently the subgrade by reducing the bearing capacity of the pavement. Okay, you can see also how your surface drainage is important in terms of your shoulders. If your shoulders are not maintained properly, the water will not find a way to drain off, even if you have camber and other things. So the water will be stored in the pavement surface, and slowly you can see the type of damage because of improper maintenance of the shoulders. Okay, shoulder is an integral part of the pavement. Okay, so you can see here how the shoulders need to be maintained, because of the, if it is instead of falling gradient, if it is rising like this, then the water will get stagnant over here, and then slowly will start penetrating this way, that way, and then whole pavement will start will start getting damaged. So apart from the surface drainage, subsurface drainage is also equally important. The moisture basically which reaches the lower layers of the pavement, either from the pavement surface through the cracks, or seepage from the shoulders, or seepage from the adjoining highlands, or from capillary rise from the moisture. Okay, if you see this, the water can penetrate through the cracks here. Okay, water can come through the shoulders or at the joints interface. Water can also come from the highlands, this side, seepage. Water can also come from the bottom as capillary reaction. So all these things which will come to the lower layers of the pavement surface needs subsurface drainage system, and these all water are known as subsurface moisture, and disposal of subsurface moisture away from the pavement is known as subsurface drainage system. Okay. So consequences of lack of effective subsurface drainage system results in premature failure of the pavement. Okay. These are the different sources as I discussed. So what are the different subsurface measures, drainage measures? We can provide actually these drainage layers in a pavement so that any water coming from top or bottom can be drained off to the sides. You can provide some geotextile layers also, like your geocomposite layers for draining of the rainwater from the surface, not rainwater, any water coming to the different pavement layers to the lower layers can be drained off. Okay. This has to also be integrated with the side drains and all, so you need to also understand that. This is the provision of drainage layers. Okay, and this is the filter layers. So also for this capillary rise of water from the bottom, if it is you have a clay soil, there is high chance that the water table is high, there is a capillary rise of water. So for that you need to provide a sand blanket or capillary cutoff at this place, okay, to improve the subsurface drains. Okay. And if you have a highland this side and there is a flow of water from this side, you have to collect this through these side drains. Perforated pipes are normally provided, and these are side drains in closed side drains are being provided with geosynthetics wrapped in this. Okay, this can also be provided. Okay, these are called intercept drains. Okay, or intercepting drains. So now let us understand how to plan the pavement maintenance. Okay, so based on the condition survey data, the causes for the development of various distresses and effects should be first examined. That we have already seen. We need to understand what are the different reasons for the distresses. Then a decision shall be taken on whether to initiate or defer the maintenance activity, or to go with more detailed structural investigation to determine the rehabilitation need. So you have to take a decision whether this particular type of distress is a functional distress or is a structural distress. If it is a structural distress, you need to go for structural evaluation also, so that you can go for rehabilitation treatments. Okay. Where severity of distress on the pavement influences the riding quality significantly, rectification measures should be taken straight away or immediately through appropriate maintenance treatments. Okay, and then planning of various maintenance operation should be correlated and looked upon as a total system rather than each activity being considered in isolation. Okay, so this is a system. Maintenance management is a system. Okay, you have to take a network of roads, and considering your budget and all these things, you have to consider which road to be taken up and what kind of maintenance should be done within the limited budget. So that's why we need to plan for the pavement maintenance. Decision is normally taken whether to go in for preventive maintenance measures like sealing or application of periodic renewal or strengthening based on the finances available. And this also is highly driven by this cost aspect, because we know that failure to do routine maintenance requires premature periodic maintenance, which is 20 times costlier than routine maintenance. And failure to carry out periodic maintenance requires strengthening with overlay, that will be 3 times costlier than periodic maintenance. Similarly, failure to strengthen at appropriate time requires rehabilitation or sometimes reconstruction that may be 15 times costlier than periodic maintenance and 5 times costlier than normal strengthening. Okay. So you have to have a payment maintenance management system. Okay. So how there is a term called payment management system, another is payment maintenance management system. There is a difference between this payment management system and payment maintenance management system. The PMS, this consists of basically a comprehensive coordinated set of activities associated with the planning, design, construction, maintenance, evaluation, and research of the payment. So all this is known as payment management system, managing the payments starting from its planning up to its maintenance, whereas maintenance and evaluation. Whereas PMMS is only will be dealing with the maintenance aspect. It's a technical or operational methodology for managing or directing and controlling the maintenance resources in a scientific manner for optimum benefits or optimum allocation of the maintenance budget. Okay. So what is PMMS? Let us understand. PMMS basically performs the following functions. It is used to identify the projects in need of maintenance and repairs and to establish the priorities. Okay. Second, identification of the type of maintenance and or rehabilitation required. Okay. Third, requirement of type and timing of the future maintenance and repair works or rehabilitation works. Fourth, to minimize the life cycle costs or maximize the benefits. Last, not the least, is that to predict the performance of the payment in future. Okay. So all these are basically the functions of the payment maintenance management system. Okay. So what it includes a strategic goal. Okay. You will have a goal, you have a strategy for your payment management system. Okay. And you will, for that, you have to first go for the inventory, condition survey, and performance evaluation. After that, you have to measure, you have to find out the measure of the goals and expectations, and then you have to use some prediction tools. How to predict? You have to use some payment declaration models, prediction tools. Then you have to go for some decision analysis tool, and then system integration. Okay. Then you have to use some. You have to go for consideration of life cycle cost analysis in the decision process. You have to include the life cycle because this affects the life cycle cost of the payment. So life cycle costing is also has to be integrated into the decision process, and then you have to use a tool for optimization, and then you have to link to the budgetary process, and then you have to go see that the continuous improvement in the road maintenance and management strategy is also part of the PMMS. So PMMS is actually a decision support tool for doing the maintenance in a more rational manner. Okay, with limited budgetary provisions. Okay, so in a short, you can just understand this. That uses different or uses a scientific way through different prediction tools and all to take up different maintenance activities. So the key challenges, if you see the key challenges in maintenance in India is basically the effective strategy. Whether we have really an effective strategy in India for taking of the different maintenance needs of our country, or carrying out the maintenance activities of the road network in our country, the answer is no. We do not have a clear-cut maintenance budget for our roads. So that's why we do not have a policy framework. Okay, as far as the maintenance is concerned. Okay, so maintenance funding, if you see, very inadequate funding and very low funding as far as maintenance concerned. Integration of resources is also a weak integration of the resources because we get maintenance funds from different resources. So that's why we do not have a proper way of integration. Whenever fund comes from this source or other source, we go for some activities. So we have to integrate them. Then effective management of available funds. So whatever fund is available, it should be effectively managed. Maintenance planning. So for maintenance planning, you should have data collection and analysis. So periodically you have to collect the performance data. So you need to understand the importance of payment performance data collection. So then and analysis of that. Absence of rational planning. We do not have a rational planning process. that what will be done and when. So based on if some state is having good fund for maintenance, they will use it lavishly, whereas some states they will not have maintenance fund, they will actually their roads will actually fail miserably like that. So it has to be judiciously used. So then preparation of annual maintenance plans is also very much necessary. Then institutional and technical capacity. We are actually also having lack of resources for regular payment evaluation. Regular payment evaluation in terms of functional and structural is very much necessary for planning the maintenance activities. Okay. Inadequate technical capacity to investigate failures. If there is a particular failure, we sometimes we do not use or we do not have sufficient technical capacity and manpower in-house in most of the road department, but we do not take or do not hire technical manpower from other agencies to investigate the failures. So without that, without investigating, we go for certain maintenance measure, which again fails within a short period of time. So also we have weak quality audit of maintenance work. We do not have a good quality audit mechanism of the maintenance work. Normally for new construction we have a quality audit, but for maintenance works we do not have a quality audit. Inadequate supervision, that since maintenance work small amounts are involved, so supervision is also not involved in that. No incentives to the sincere contractors are there. So those who are actually maintaining their roads properly, there should be good incentives, whether it is financial or non-financial. Okay. Finally, let us summarize the whole presentation. Maintenance is essential for payment to last up to their design life. So if you are designing a payment for 15 years or 20 years or more, you should ensure maintenance at right time, at regular intervals. Then only it will serve its design life. Otherwise, the payment will fail prematurely. The design life is ensured only if you are maintaining the payment at regular intervals. Okay, otherwise this design life term is invalid. Okay, then drainage is an important parameter in deterioration of the payment. So due importance should be given to the drainage system of the payments while design. Okay, and as well as while maintaining. Okay, preventive maintenance improves the life of the payments in a cost-effective manner. So that's why preventive maintenance will be preferred to rehabilitation measures. Timely maintenance is very important. Therefore, a payment maintenance management system should be developed for optimal allocation of the funds based on the maintenance needs. Okay, I hope all of you have understood the concept of maintaining the roads and the need for regular maintenance of the road. Okay, and the different factors which affect the deterioration of the payment and the treatment methods that we can take up, and also the importance of timely maintenance of the roads for longevity of the road payment.